Dwight and I are already in the middle of a conversation here. From Home Helpers, I want to welcome the owner, Dwight Brown, to the program.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking about energy in your 60s, enjoying your retirement years, but sometimes the retirement years can get a little tougher as we continue to age. I guess that's the pattern in life. You know, we don't stop aging at any point. So caregivers sometimes come into the question. So the big question I'm sure you get, probably the first question you always get is, how do I know I need a caregiver?
Wow, that's a tough question. It's different for everybody. People come to me in two different ways. Mm-hmm. People come to me because there has been an acute event, a fall, so a fall and a broken bone or hip or something else,
right?
Or slowly over time. Mm-hmm. And the slowly over time is a little harder to decide when it's the right time to need somebody.
Right, it's that kind of a slow boil to the point where it's like, oh, the water's boiling.
That's exactly it. And sometimes you don't realize it until there's that acute event. Mm-hmm. So, a very common call that I get is that one spouse is taking care of another spouse and they just can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. The statistics nationally with Medicare are that if there is a household primary caregiver, the caregiver actually ends up with worse health outcomes in the long run than the person they're taking care of.
Right.
So I've got a call several years ago from a family that said, Dad's taking care of Mom. You know, he's 90, she's 85, and he's helping her in the shower and everything else. And you figure, at that age, helping someone in the shower, if there's a fall, they're both going to fall.
They're both going down, right?
And so a caregiver will prevent that acute event from happening, right? If you act quickly enough.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of caregiver schedules can caregivers give? Is it 24/7 if they need that kind of thing? Okay.
Anything. Yeah, caregiving is the most flexible of the senior care options. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people immediately think of, hey, mom, dad, or spouse may need to go to assisted living or to a board and care. Caregiving is the most flexible of all of those. I have clients where I'm there for 3 hours once a week.
Okay.
And I have clients that I'm with 12, 24 hours a day, every day of the week.
Okay.
We work around you. As a business owner, it's funny when you're young and you have a job and you say, if you own your own business, you don't have a boss. I look at it exactly the opposite. As a business owner, you're my boss. So when a client calls me and says, what schedule can I do? I say, you're the boss, you tell me. Mm-hmm. You want someone to come from 7 to 9 p.m.? I'll send someone 7 to 9 p.m.
And on those quick ones, when there's been a fall and we need immediate care, if the person who needs that care or a family member calls and say, I need somebody today. Is that something that can be that quickly done?
Yep, that happens. I like to give my clients choice. Mm-hmm. So if you give me a week's notice, I will get all of the information that I need from you, and I'll actually have you interview people at no cost. I'll send 2 or 3 caregivers either by phone or to your house. You meet them and you tell me who you like. Mm-hmm. If you call me and say, I need someone tonight, we don't have time for interviews, and you're going to have to trust me, right? But absolutely, I help people. Sometimes hospitals discharge and they don't give much advance notice, or something happens, and so that is a call I get probably once every 2 weeks that you need someone immediately.
Okay. Yeah. Well, to alleviate that concern, I mean, are caregivers licensed? Is that a thing we have to do, or their background check? Do they know coming in, even though they haven't been interviewed by you personally? Or,
yes.
Or in terms of
everybody's interviewed by me and my staff.
Caregivee, but they haven't met them yet, but they at least know that much.
Correct. So every caregiver in the state of California, I'm an agency, so I can't speak for if you find somebody on Craigslist or Nextdoor, right?
Right.
But as an agency, by law, I am licensed. My agency is licensed, and every person I hire has to be licensed through the California Department of Social Services. Mm-hmm. And that department also does the background check. Right. So if a person comes into my office and says, I want a job with you, 99% of them have been doing this for years, and they already have their license. 1% that have been doing it for mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, and they're not professionally licensed. I have to send them to get fingerprinted. The fingerprint goes to Sacramento. They do a Department of Justice background check, any criminal activity, and I'm not allowed to hire them.
Okay.
And if they break the law in any way, I can no longer use them. I get an email that says so-and-so was, whatever happened, right? Yeah. You can't employ them anymore. So the state monitors everything.
And in terms of licensing, there's a certain threshold that they're already meeting in terms of the standard of care that they are expected to be able to give and know how to give, right? CPR certified, things like that.
It really, really varies.
Okay.
Yeah, it really, really varies because the kind of care I'm giving really varies. I'm going to use a couple of clients that I have here in Laguna Woods.
Sure.
I have a client who is sharp as a tack, very, very, very capable, macular degeneration, she can no longer see. All she needs a caregiver for is driving to errands around town because she can't drive anymore, right? So the caregiver that I pair her with doesn't really need those kind of skills. And then I have clients that have very advanced Parkinson's to the point where it's like Lou Gehrig's disease and they need full help with everything. The caregiver I'm going to send there is going to be much more trained and much more qualified for that kind of care. It's a very wide spectrum that we provide.
Now, when you sit down with someone and say, hey, I think they say I need care, what are kind of some of the criteria, things that you kind of evaluate when you maybe go into the home or meet them at your office?
Yeah, I've realized over time, you do this long enough and you kind of boil it down and say, this is what I really need to know. I need to know three things. The schedule. So when do you want somebody? What days of the week? When is that person going to arrive? And when are they going to leave? Believe it or not, this is the most important question. Because when I reach out to my team, I've got 250 people, the caregivers that I can reach out to. When I reach out to them, if you as the client say you want midnight to 4 a.m., well, most of those 250 are going to be out. They're out, right? Or the most common request I get is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to 2. If you call me with that, well, everybody that's already busy those days is out. So the first question I ask is, when do you need the caregiver? What days and what time? The second question is, what will they be doing? And this is a good question because it makes you think about when they arrive, am I going to ask them to do laundry right away? Am I going to ask them to prepare a meal? Am I going to ask to get somebody dressed or showered? So question number one is the schedule. Question number two is what will the caregiver be doing and helping you with? And then the third one is personality and demographics. Do you want the caregiver to be a male or a female, right? Do you should they be super talkative or super quiet? Somebody engaging or somebody that's in the background, right? So once I have those three questions, I can then arrange a few interviews and you tell me who you like.
We just got through the holidays and families were visiting. I imagine you probably get some phone calls after the holidays saying, hey, mom and dad, from relatives, mom and dad aren't doing so well, and there may be some resistance there. Mom and dad, you talk to mom and dad, no, we're fine. There can be that discrepancy between what the kids are seeing and what the parents say, we don't need any help.
Absolutely. That's very, very, very common. I'm going to blame us men are the worst, right?
Yes.
We don't need help.
100%.
Are you kidding me? We don't. I don't need help.
Agreed.
Right? So yes, resistance is very, very common. But there's a lot of different ways to look at that. I just had this conversation yesterday. I said, I remember when we were growing up, my mom would clean the house by herself. She was very resistant to having a housekeeper. Then she got a housekeeper, and it was like, wow, this is the best thing in the world, right? Now everybody has a housekeeper. Having a caregiver is very, very similar. In the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't know, a caregiver? But then once you have one, and you're like, okay, well, this is pretty nice.
This is working
right?
out.
For the men out there, I say, look, General Eisenhower had an executive staff and an assistant that would help him, right?
You don't have to go it alone.
That's exactly it. And a caregiver doesn't have to be medical things, right? I mean, I think the most common complaint
driving me to errands and helping me around the house,
absolutely
doing the heavier stuff that I can't do anymore.
That's absolutely it.
If people want to come see you, they can call you and that kind of ask questions, whatever. But you also do once a month, every first of every Tuesday. That one's coming up, right?
That's correct. And what I do is I have a sheet of the most common questions that I get. We've talked about some of them.
Right.
And I cover all of those questions. So the first Tuesday of every month, which is coming up next Tuesday, it's on the screen, March 3rd at 10 a.m. at Laguna Cafe, my friend Tammy over there. That's by Aldi. I will cover your breakfast and your coffee. It's not a high-pressure sales session. I'm not selling timeshares here. I can't force you to take a caregiver. It's just question and answer.
Yeah,
so.
And you also might end up finding out, you don't think I'm there yet. We're not ready yet.
Some of the questions that I answer are, what are your other options? Caregiving is not for everybody. So I do cover the other options, like board and care or for other things, right? And in addition to that, one of the common ones is how do people pay for this? So I talk about veterans assistance that might pay for this or different types of insurance.
All right. Dwight Brown from Home Helpers. Go see him next Tuesday or give him a call. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back with Bree, and we got the recreation stuff going on. Stay tuned.